क्या है गयो भाई उपड़ा
हेलो
बस लाइव છે ચાલુ થઈ
everyone can listen me
મમ્મી આ વિડિયો ચાલુ છે અહીંયા
good evening friends anyone here so today here we are Tarun Mangukiya with us again so yeah we will talk about Docker Composer so this whole session will be hands-on so no PPT will be today so it will be practical for you so now it's over to you
yeah should we wait for 5 to minutes what do you suggest we have guys do comment something like hi in the chat box so that we can know you are there Sarvesh is there Vinith is there okay so I think you guys were there in the last some of you guys were there in last our session right so we discussed the docker right like how does it work and what are the advantages that's there right it is also coming Priyanka is also there right so at that time we basically created a simple node image right and we ran it to containers right and you saw how can you create a simple basic node image and run it right so our main question or even many of the participants asked like this thing will work in case so we have single image and usually we do like even when we have existing applications so we do that like we run them as an instance or Vizela or anything right but what happens when we have let's say large scale application right so large scale or even let's start from like I think most of applications you are creating we have some kind of database right that might have MySQL or they might have any other database right MongoDB Node.js then there might be other services which we might be using for caching right so in today's session we'll be covering how can you create your own this write your own infrastructure file and execute it using Docker Compose. Right, so more and more people are joining. We'll wait for 2 to 3 minutes more to start, right? And then we'll continue with that. Okay, so meanwhile, let's just revise like what did we do last time. Let me just go to my code and run the image we created. Right? So that was node example, something like that, right? Let me find it out. I think I shared a link with you guys on GitHub. Okay, yeah, that was Express.js Docker. Okay, yeah, I found that. Okay, so I'll share my screen now. Where are we? Here we go. Okay, let me share a screen. Okay, so now I think you guys can see my screen. Okay, perfect. Okay, perfect. You guys can see my screen. Okay, perfect. Okay, so last time we created a file, something like this, like so there was a Docker file, and as we saw, I mean, as we know, we'll create a Docker file based on some base image and run some of the commands. It'll make the error. Then we'll add some of our source code file and then run like we'll have to run npm install and stuff, right? And the main command, the entry command will be node where www.index.js, right? So using this image, let's just run this image again, right? So that was Docker run or Docker build was that, right? So we created something like my node app, right? Let me just zoom my screen, I think. Okay, and this by the image will be built. Oh, so this. Okay, perfect. And to run that image, we'll run docker run it my node app, and we'll have to bind a port, right? So I think inside index.js, the port was 3000. Okay, so I'll just bind 3000 port dash port 3000 from outside and inside also 3000. Perfect. And we can check whether the image is running or not via docker ps, right? So here we can see the image is running, right? My node app. Okay, perfect one. Let's go to our local host and 3000. Yes, the image is running, right? So in the previous session, we saw something like this, how to create a Docker file. This was a very basic example of creating a Docker file, and I think this will work for most of your Node.js applications, right? And this is simple index file, right? But the thing is, as you saw, like I ran 2 to 3 commands, to like do the stuff, right? But let's go deeper and let's create a single file, like which will act as our infrastructure file, right? So right now we just have one thing, that is, let's say, our web, right? Web portion only, right? So when we go, I have Googled over here. Where is that thing? Gosh, yeah. So what we usually do is we have an application file, and when we have is some kind of database, right? So what we will be trying in this session is we'll be creating a common YAML file using which we can boot up this whole infrastructure with single command, right? So that will be helpful whenever you want to run any infrastructure in production, right? So it will just be one command and everything will be built using the configs or let's say Docker files we have provided, right? So let's try let's take a small step over here, right? So we'll create a simple Docker file which will just convert this Docker run and this Docker build command into a basic infrastructure having application part only, right? Because right now we just have hello world or hello developer stuff, right? So let's go in the left panel. I'll go and create a new file named docker-compose.yml. Okay, so by default, Docker, when you use Docker, right, Docker Compose, right? So earlier, you know that the CLI part was Docker, the command was Docker, right? Now we'll change the command to Docker Compose, Docker-compose, right? So I just created a simple sample file, right? The structure of compose file works something like this, like, so usually when you look at the infrastructure, right? So that will have a database or services, then it will have networking, right? So we'll have, you'll think it as like a Google Cloud, right? So we in the Google Cloud, we have our instances, then we have database, right? Then we have networking, right? So we can enable some of the pods, we can disable some of the pods, right? Then we can do also the scaling and stuff, right? So this will act something like that only, the Docker Compose file, right? So in Docker Compose, the very first line of line of syntax will be the version, right? So right now I'm using Docker Compose version 3, right? So usual, like there is like later version also available, 3, 3.1, 3.2, 3.3 is there, like the latest I saw, right? Okay. Then after version, I mean, this is a common practice. Then we'll, as I told you, we'll have to have some application part, right? So in the images or the virtual machines, right? So we'll have one virtual machine for our database, another one will be for our application, right? One more can be for, let's say, our image detection service. One more can be for Reddish. One more can be for any X number of services. Right? So those are called services, right? Even in Docker Compose, we are calling them services. Right? So in the services portion, what we can do is, right, we can write that services, right? So there can, here, let's say I'm commenting over here, it can be my application, right? Then I think I'll zoom a little bit more so that you guys can see properly. Okay. Then one more service will be, let's say, database, right? Can be caching, right? One more, I think we used last time, image resizing service, right? So now what you can do is, rather than defining the stuff or booting a one more server, you can just put it as image resizing server over here, yeah, app service over here. Okay, so something like this will write our n number of services that we need or that we want to boot up when the application runs, right? So let's try the right basic application code, which is the same, right? The same our example, right? So we'll just convert this Docker run command or Docker build command into Docker Compose, right? So it won't have database or caching or anything right now. It will just have an application, right? So we can the first after services, the first key can be app, right? Or any, this is the name of our container basically, right? So we can give, let's say, web or app or my app or whatever you can give, right? So right now I'm keeping is as a web, right? Okay. Then there will be name of image, right? So name of image can be your custom name, let's say my node app. Okay. Or if you want the image to be there from, let's say last time we also tried to run some of the services from Docker Hub, right? So Docker Hub image img proxy, right? This is something we tried last time. Okay, so image name can be something from the Docker Hub, right? So it can be this image name, darsim slash image img proxy, right? So it can be that, or it can be our custom name, right? So let's say your organization, here our organization name is GDG, right? So we can do GDG dash Surat and my node app. Or I think let's remove the dash for now. It's fine. Okay, we'll keep GDG Surat slash my node app, right? Then one more thing we'll have to do is here we'll have to build the image, right? Because this is not image that needs to be pulled from Docker Hub, right? What we have to do is we'll have to have this image to be built locally, right? So there is a build command for that, right? And what you give in the build is that you basically pass the context, right? So here the context is the current application only. Okay, so I'll write it's as this only, right? Build, then slash dot. Okay, then do we need to give, like, open up any ports, right? So yes, obviously in the image we'll have 3000, this index.js file being called as 3000 port, right? In the outer world, right, we need them to be there on, let's say, 80 number port, right? So there is a key called ports, right? In that you can define 80 and 3000, right? So left hand part is outside port, that is our laptop port basically, or our virtual machine port, and this is the inside port, that is called a container port, right? So what we are doing, we are exposing our 80 number port of this device or this VM to internal 80 port. Oh, sorry, internal 3000 port. Okay, so this is very basic, very simple service that we have written, right? We are not including any database or caching right now. Okay, so let's try and build this thing, right? So to build the Docker Compose, what we have to do is the command will be docker dash compose, right? And then you will have to run build, right? So if you are using Docker on your laptop device mostly, so Docker Compose will be inbuilt, right? But if you are using this on your server, then you will need to install Docker Compose. You can just Google something like Docker Compose install on Ubuntu, let's say. And then you will find a step-by-step guide on Docker itself, distribution, many other places, right? So we'll run this. Let's try and run this command. Hope this works. And I'm running it. Okay. So it may take some time to transfer this file and build a context, right? Okay, so yeah, it's working now. The image is being built of GDG Surat my node app, right? And yes, when you will also be able to see that the image is successfully built, right over here, and the image name is or tag is basically GDG Surat / my node app and latest. Okay, perfect. So now let's do one thing. Let's run this image, this full infrastructure or compose file, right? So Docker compose, then up dash D, right? So D there, dash D is for daemon, right? So what will this do is this won't block my terminal, right? So I'll be able to like use my terminal as it is. It will just run the command and as a daemon in the background basically. That's I'm running Docker compose up D, and let's wait for a while. Okay, yes, they are telling me, okay, creating application, express dash starter, web one, and done. Okay, that means the image is like our infrastructure up is running. When you want to check the status of this infrastructure, you can run Docker compose. It's the same way we did with Docker PS. There is also command for Docker compose PS, right? So using this, we will be able to see the status of our application. Right, so let us wait. Docker compose PS. I'm not sure why this thing is slow now. Okay, shouldn't be okay. Yeah, so here we have our application name, that is Express Starter, then web, and let's keep this thing for now. Okay, then state, you what you need to do is you need to check the state, right? So it should be up mostly, right? Or it can be starting or something like that, right? So usually if the status is up, then this thing will work. Right. And yeah, we have also defined the port, right? So our internal 80 port will be external 3000 port. Right. And let's go and check on web localhost. And yeah, it's working now. See, hi developer. And we also, I think, gave some parameters. Yeah, query parameters. We can give question mark name. Name is equal to GDG. Okay, so hello GDG is there. Perfect. Right. So what we did is we created a very simple, very tiny Docker Compose application, which is just having a simple service. Right. But in this thing, one thing that's missing is we haven't deal with any kind of database right now. Right. So in the example as we saw, right, what we can have is we can have a database, right? So we just created this application, right? Now let's go and add a database, right? But to add the database, I'll need to, write the whole. In this case, I'm using Node.js, right? So I'll have to go and write some kind of uh, database or CRUD operations, right? So I'm just pulling one of the image from. Yeah, I'm using the sample from Soham Kamani, I think. Yeah, and this is just a simple REST API built on top of Express and MongoDB. Right. Okay, so what we have to do to run this application, we'll have to have MongoDB image also. Right. Also, let's do one thing. Let's, for temporary purpose, let's add MongoDB over here. Okay. Let's try and add MongoDB over here. So I'm giving the name of the image, of the container as Mongo. Image will be, I think, something like MongoDB. Let me see. Yeah, my net is slow, so I'll try and use the existing image. I do have Mongo. Image is Mongo. Okay. Do we need to build this image? No, we don't want to build this image, so we will skip build part. Right. Yes. Obviously, ports. Do we need to open up the port? Yes, we can go and try. So I think MongoDB port is 270. Sorry. Yeah, 27017. Okay. So I'm opening the port. Apart from them, anything else is not required, right? So now what you can do, you can go to Docker Compose up dash D, right? Here we need to build the this whole Docker Compose because we already have like the image. This image is already built, right? And this is the direct image we are using from Docker Hub, right? So let's up and run and see whether the Mongo part is working or not. Okay. It will take some time and it will run. Okay, yeah, it's showing done. Let's see and let's go and check Docker Compose PS. Yes, the MongoDB is also up and running. Right, but obviously, like we won't be able to check like whether this Mongo is working or not, right? Otherwise, we'll have to go inside the container, right, to check whether that thing is working or not, right? So I don't have any commands right now. Okay, so there is one more, I think, service from Mongo that is called Mongo Express, right? Image, and it is like PHP my admin for MongoDB. That is what I like heard from uh, the reference. Okay, yeah. So here is that we have Mongo Express image and we can try it out. Okay, so it's a simple. I'm just giving the name again. Mongo Express. The image is Mongo Express and version is something I've written, yeah, 0.54.0. Okay, because I don't want to use internet right now, like much of internet. Okay, and I'll remove the extra keys and yeah, port 8081 outside, inside that's also 8081. Okay, so this will run Mongo and we'll be able to check whether there are data in Mongo or not. Right. So let's go and run also run these containers. Yes, see they are creating the image and it's done. Okay, let's go and see the status via PS. Yes, that's also up and running, and that's on port 8081. And inside port is also 8081. Right. So let's go and check localhost 8081. And here we go. Right, so we can see that the server status that is up and running and MongoDB version is 2.4.4.2.6, something like that. Yes, correct, that's correct. Right, so this is basically admin server for our Mongo or in which we can go and check the data. I'm not sure like how this thing works. Right, but yeah, this is working. Right. So what? Let's do one thing. Let's convert or try to use our this MongoDB example, Mongo Express node example, and let's convert it to Docker Compose. Right. So what this will give us, this in this we'll be using our web application. We'll create a Docker file again. Right. We'll use Mongo and Mongo Express to use the data. Okay, so I already cloned this example over here, right? And you can see they do have index JS and Express is also there, and the thing is working. There are some kind of routes and stuff like that. Okay, so we go and check like how the things work. Okay, and let's go and create Docker Compose.yml. The same way we did with earlier in the earlier example. Okay, yeah, but in this case we'll have to have create Docker file also, right? So let's like first create Docker. Let's do create Docker Compose. So version will be 3. I'm using 3 version. Services will be one app. I'm giving app name right now. Okay, image will be GDG Surat slash what is Express Mongo DB or demo or node Mongo demo. Okay, I think this will work. Then we'll have to build. Obviously, there's the build file will add is at the current position, right? If that's inside some folder, let's say app or anything, right? So we can move the stuff to inside. So let's do one that tools app. Okay, let's move everything inside. I think I won't be moving this file. Sorry, I created a file. Should be a folder. New folder, app, and I'll move all the stuff inside. Here we go. Perfect. Yeah, it's inside now. Okay. So yeah, now my context will be app. Okay. Ports. Obviously, I'll need to bind some ports. So ideally, inside port is 3000. Outside, I want to bind it to 80. Right. And apart from that, no, we don't want any other services. Okay. Then yes, what do we have to do? We'll need to have MongoDB. Right. So we created this configuration already. I'll just use that again. Right. So you can see like the best use case of Docker Compose is that you can like your basic configuration, you can already like copy paste from existing templates, right? So that can be like quite useful in this case. Right. Also, one more thing that I need to make sure is that, yeah, so the first thing that came into our mind is that we have provided build context over here, right? But we haven't written our Docker file, right? Because if you want to build the Docker or build the image, let's build Docker file. So let's go and create a Docker file for that Docker file. Okay. And it will be simple, like from node 12, then it will be add slash, or sorry, we'll have to create directory. So run make dir where www add where www, then okay, run in cd where www and npm ci, okay, because we have to install the packages, okay, and then command will be and node where www index.js. Okay, here there won't be any app thing over here, right? Because what we have told our build is that this is our base directory, right? So when we are inside this thing, so it just acts as a simple directory, right? So what we have done is we just have to add current directory. That's the context of our application build, build context basically, right? And we'll just add it. So in the node also, we'll just run that command. Okay, so let's try and build this thing, Docker compose build. Let's go and build this thing. Yeah, again, this MongoDB and Mongo Express won't be built because it's already there, right? We haven't provided any build context over there. Okay, yeah, it's built successfully now. Perfect. Okay, and yeah, image is built. Okay, so let's try to run this thing, and trust me, this will fail. But yeah, this is how we'll run, right? So Docker compose upd. Okay, we'll go and run the command. Okay, it's index.js only, so I think that is correct. Oh, bind for port field. Yeah. See, I think when you are learning the stuff, right? So you will encounter this kind of error that the port is already occupied, right? So the thing is, in the previous example, we were running that Express example, right? So our project is already running, right? So when you say, see Docker compose PS in your uh, earlier folder, so you'll be able to see your local ports that are 8081, 80, and 27017 are already occupied by this application, right? So what we have to do is I'm just checking the status and I'll remove them, right? So Docker compose down. Okay, this will remove all my containers that are running. And perfect, right? So our newer application, which is REST API on with Docker Compose, that showed us an error, right? So we have just removed this earlier infrastructure, and I'll run one more now. The newer one, basically Express.js is MongoDB. That's the example we took from GitHub. Okay, yeah. So now they are done. Right, so you can see the status over here. And let's go and check the status via Docker Compose PS. Yes, upper things are up and running, but our application container seems failed. Right, I'll just small this thing. Let me run this again to see everything in line in a single line. Yeah, so our app has failed. Express and MongoDB, both like Mongo Express, basically you can say PHP for MyAdmin for MongoDB, right? So that's up and running. right? But this one is exited, right? So let's go and check if we have some logs. So Docker Compose logs app, right? Let's see if we do have some logs. I think we might not have. I know the reason why this is failed. Okay, yeah, perfect. Chalo, we do have some logs over here, right? So when we go and check the logs, right? So first line will of the log will always be attaching to some the container name, right? And after that there will be log of our application, right? So here, what is the log? Okay, the Mongo network error failed to connect to server localhost 27017. Oh, that is correct, right? Okay, so this says MongoDB is not running, but if we see in the our PS, the MongoDB is running, right? So what is happening over here, right? So let's go and understand what is our infrastructure, what our infrastructure says, right? So we have different services, right? So main advantage of Docker Compose is that, or even the Docker is that it gives us isolated environment over here, right? So the thing is, this container is, it doesn't have any relation to this container, or this container doesn't have any relation to this container. Right. So what we have to make sure is that this app should be able to connect to this Mongo. Right? So this is like if you imagine this as we are one of the VM virtual machine, right, that we saw in the example, right? So your one virtual machine that has your application code should be able to connect your MongoDB server, right? So what you have to do is when you are connecting to that MongoDB server, you have to pass the host, right? So usually the host is IP address, right? But in this case, when we are building this infrastructure, we don't know like what IP will be assigned to which service, right? So the thing is, ideally, when you boot up the services with Docker Compose, they'll create give an alias to all the containers, right? So if you want IP address from Mongo, so what you can do is like it's like localhost, right? So if you see localhost, so what localhost does, it points to 127 like 127.0.0.1. Right, localhost points to that. Right. So what Docker will do is when it is creating the network inside your Docker, so it will create or like it will give an alias of it will basically point web to its respective container. It will point Mongo, like the name Mongo or host Mongo, right, to the Mongo container, and Mongo Express host to Mongo Express container. Right. So what we can do is, if the thing is, when this web container is running, right, when this Express Starter Mongo, sorry, no, Express Starter web is running, the thing is, it is like to connect to localhost, right? But in case of the web itself, the localhost will be inside it should be inside the web, right? It itself is like the web itself is localhost, right? But what we have to do is we have to go outside of that container and connect with some other service, right? That is called Mongo. The service name is Mongo, right? So in this thing, what we have to do, we have to go to our code base basically, right? And we have to change the the host of the Mongo, right? So I'm not sure how to do change the host of the Mongo. Let's go and check. Yeah, so in the DB config example, we have MongoDB, then the host is localhost, right? So as I told you, there should be some IP address. Let's say if, Docker has assigned 10.7.0.1 whatever, right? So, but we don't know the IP address, right? But what Docker Compose does, it points Mongo or the name of our service that is here, right? So Mongo will that host will be pointing to Mongo database, right, internal, and the port will be 27017, right? So that's there only, right? Okay, so what we did is we went to a database config, we changed the host we changed from localhost to Mongo, right? And that Mongo is pointing to our Mongo, a kind of virtual machine or Mongo container, right? So let's go and run. Yeah, before running, we'll have to build again. Right? So I'm building the containers. Yes, it's built, and let's go and run up the again. Okay, recreating. Let's see and check the status. Docker Compose PS. Hope there is no error because we'll have to debug it, and debugging is very tedious process. Oh, great. This one is up now. Okay. You can also go and check the like logs anyhow, right? So let's go and check the logs again. Docker Compose logs app, right? So the thing is, these are all the services names are aliases, and we can use them anyhow, anywhere we want. Okay. Meanwhile, if you do have some question, you can start asking it on in the chat. Will be like we can take it in the session itself, or we can take them at the end. Okay. So yeah, our app says the server is running on port 3000, right? But that is inside the container port 3000. Outside is 80 number port. Okay. So let's go and check localhost. Oh, cannot get slash. Okay, because yeah, it might. Yeah, they haven't assigned. Oh no, this one is. Okay, let me close this thing. Yeah, we haven't assigned. I think the code might not have the root name that. Okay, so what are the roots available? Items, and yeah, there is put root also available. Right. So there is get root that is called items. So let's go and run that slash items. Okay, yeah, it's responding with null array. Right. So what we have to do is we do have one more root in here which says item, and we can post some data. Right. So let's go to post main. Let's write localhost, not 3000, but now 80 number port or direct then item, and we'll just insert a data with name and quantity. Right. So this is simple CRUD operation in which it accepts name as quantity. Right. So as we are locked down inside our home, so we'll want fruits, right? So let's give it name fruits and quantity 10. Right, let's send the request, and okay, successful. Yeah, it's 200 status success. Okay, let's go to the web and refresh the page. That is items API, and yeah, now it's there. Okay, you can what you we can do is we can also go to our database and check if this data this thing. Right, so what? Yeah, this is earlier we just had three config, that was a blank database, right? And then here there is one more config, that is a store. And in store we have collections named items is there. Okay, and yeah, fruits 10. Perfect. Then let's create one more thing. BG vegetables, and quantity will be, let's say 20 more vegetables. Perfect. I send the request, and let's go and run. Yes, the response is there. Right. So what we did is we basically, uh, uh, created a simple CRUD operation, which or created, sorry, not CRUD operation. Obviously, it is someone else's code. But yeah, what we did is we created a Docker Compose file which has three services. One is app, one is Mongo as a database, and this is Mongo Express, which is our panel to look into the database. Right. And then what we did is we created a Docker file, right, which basically compiles or builds our application image. That's the base image node image, node 12. Then we ran some command to prepare the application, and the main entry command is node where www.dex.js, right. Now what Docker Compose did is it created, or when you press Docker Compose build, so it builds an image named GDG Surat / node mongodb. Right. And it also, when you basically up this infrastructure, so it will create three services named app, Mongo Express, right? And we have also bind some ports, right? And yeah, one of the error that we came across was the connectivity issue, internal connectivity issue, right? So what we have to do is we wanted to connect our app to the database, right? So what we did is we internally connected to Mongo using the Docker alias, right? Okay, one more thing is here, we won't need these ports over here, right? Because our services are connecting internally, right? Inside the network, that's inside the Docker, right? So even if you remove these ports over here, right? Let us go and check. Let us run Docker Compose update again. Oh, I think, okay. There was some still missing. I don't know like what happened. Okay, this is up and running. And yes, again, this will work, right? Because our services are connecting them inside the internal network. Right? So app is connecting to Mongo in internal network, right? So the thing is, we didn't connected Mongo to our host computer, right? That is our laptop or anything, our virtual machine, or anything. And still we maintain protected our database, right? So the thing is, no one will be able to access the database from outside part, even from your PM directly. Right? They have to go to the application and then access it, or maybe in Mongo expression access it. Right? Let's do one more thing. Let's try to destroy or delete. Like obviously, you whenever you are done with your work, so you will run Docker Compose down or anything, right? Or maybe you might need to migrate the server or stuff like that, right? So what will happen? You will run Docker Compose down, and it will remove everything, right? But it should it remove the database? What do you think? The database should it be removed? Can we remove the database directly? I think we can't, right? Because now what we did, I just removed this thing. Okay, there is an error, obviously. And now let me run this again, Docker Compose update. And the three services creating. Let me check what happened. Docker Compose PS. Is there any issue, bro? Maybe it might have taken some time. Okay, why is it exited? Docker Compose. Yes, okay, now I know. Logs app. Now this is I know. Okay, so yeah, this will also give one more insight on dependencies, right? Yeah. So the thing is, yeah, so as I told you, it will, change the IPC. It's a 172.25.02, right? But inside our config, we just have given Mongo, right? So it connects internally. So the thing is, the error now is failed to connect to server. Okay, why this can happen? That's because whenever the Mongo runs or any kind of database is booting up, the problem is that they will take some time to boot up, right? But our application is too fast, right? It will just node index.js that is too fast, right? So what we have to do is we have to tell our application to wait until Mongo is ready, right? Or Mongo says that app is running, right? So there is a key called depends on, right? In this thing you can write your uh, the service on which your application depends, right? So if the Mongo is ready, then only will run this key. Right? So let's go and destroy the network, destroy the everything, whole compose. Okay, yeah, error is invalid type. It should be an error. Okay, let me put it as an error. So this is standard YAML format, right? So in YAML, you can define error using -ish, or maybe something else. Okay, now this will work. So we are just restoring the network to check from fresh start, right? Now we'll run upd again. And let's go and see PS. Yes, now is up and running, right? What happened over here is that our app waited for Mongo to be ready in ready status, right? So what happens? There are multiple status of each container, right? So It can be, let's say, starting, it can be running, it can be exiting, or any other features, right? So what the app does is, or this depends on does is that it waits for the services that we have listed over here to be ready, up and running, right? So what happens? Even we can assign this thing to Mongo Express. Right? So whenever the Mongo is ready, then only we'll boot up Mongo Express. Right now, our system will be running. Okay, and yes, the thing is we lost our data. Right? Why? Because we just destroy everything and it's done. Right? Okay, so what happened in this thing is now we are focusing on database, right? We are done with application, and I think you guys can build it up automate like on your own, right? And yeah, so the thing is we lost our data, and but this shouldn't happen, obviously, right? Because other client will come and he'll be like, hey, where is my data? So what we have to do is we have to create a folder or dummy that is called basically a persistent storage, right, or a volume, right? So what we will do is we'll have to save the data, right? So what we can do is we can do something like, let's say, mount. So in VM, what we used to do is we used to mount, create a new disk and mount it to the VM and use the data like that, right? So in Docker Compose also we can create mount, right? So by volumes we can create a mount, right? So I'll create one more directive over here, data, that's called data, right? Data, and I'll mount it to, let me go and see what is mount point over here. Yes, custom configuration file. Yeah, data, that's data slash db. So data slash db inside. Yeah, so I mean the column thing works the same way in every aspect. Even imports in the volume side, so slash data from our local device will mount it to slash data root data and db inside the container. Right. So let's go and let's destroy everything again. It will take some time, maybe on my laptop or maybe in general. And let's run this again. Okay. Yes, you can see there are some files created. See inside the data directory. Right. And let's go and check if there are. Okay, it's not running yet because I think Mongo. Yeah, Mongo is adding the files on the left. Still working. Now that has exited. Why? Uh-huh. Why this happened? Let's go and run again. Maybe some other issue. Okay, yeah, maybe some blockage issue in this thing, right? So now we have all the data available in the data folder, right? So if I add something from post fan and a request, vegetables been created, okay, then some fruits created, perfect. Now let me destroy everything because that's what we are checking, right? We want to keep our data, right? So I'm using Docker Compose down, and everything will be destroyed. Okay, and let's run again, right? So, oh, this is not working. I will just cache. So now what should happen is our data should be there, right? Why? Because we have mounted extra volume over here, right? That is from our host system. I hope this works. Otherwise, we have to look for to print or search. Yes, say we do have now data, right? So what you can do is you can easily manage your data over here, and we don't want this to be added inside the Git. Okay, so we'll just ignore this file, and boom, right? So this directory won't be included in Git. Okay, perfect. I just added to Git ignore, and maybe perfect. Okay, right. So what we did right now is after building our services, we added depends on command. We added a volume in MongoDB database so that our data will be kept when even when the system is going down or anything. Right. Okay. Now let's try something else. I mean, you guys know that earlier I told you that you can scale up and scale down the systems like these services easily. Right. So let's go and check how can we do that. Okay. So I'm going to PS to check the status. Now there is no need to go and code and check. Right. So I think there is command called docker compose scale app is equal to 2. Let me see if this works. Okay. This didn't work okay, because port is already allocated. Right, because okay, we cannot create two rep apps on the same port, right? So in this what we have to do is we might have to create one more nginx that is a load balancer, right? And in the back we will need to have multiple app containers which are being connected from nginx, right? So that is something we can do and try it out, right? So okay, we'll skip that one. But yeah, there is a simple command called docker compose scale, and you can give app is equal to 3, 4, whatever. Right. But yeah, in this case, it's not working because we have binded ports on this thing, right? We'll need load balance, right? A common single endpoint should be there, right? We can't have two applications, right, over here. Okay, and then certainly you can add any number of services. Let's say I want image resizer, right? So I can add img proxy. No, that's not img proxy. What is that? Where is our Docker hub with img proxy? Right, and yeah, in that we have ports, which are port. What was the port, man? Just it had, I think, 3000 port that will be binded inside or something like that. Oh, this searches directly. Okay, 8080 is there. Okay, so let's bind that port only. Inside that's 8080, outside is also 8080. Okay, so we can go and up the. Oh shit, will this be latest? I think it will pull the image. Yeah, so we that part we missed in earlier two images because we already had images locally. Yeah, so in this case we okay 80 something is listing on 8080. I don't know. Let's do it 8888. Maybe my some other application. Okay. Oh, that is because of that other thing. Docker Compose PS. I think we scaled the replica. That's why it's already there in the config. Yes, there are two apps, so we'll have to go and scale app is equal to 1 for now because we can't bind pods. Right. And yes, there are some you can start writing or asking the questions in the chat box. We'll try to cover them up step by step, step by step. Okay, after this thing, like once this thing works. Docker Compose PS. Yeah, and obviously image researcher is working right on the local host 8888. Okay, yeah, that's working. Right. But in production, usually we won't be using this kind of ports, right? So we might be using some kind of some domain or anything, right? So you can go and try out. There is Nginx Docker proxy available, right? Yeah, Nginx proxy name, right? And it's very easy to set it up. Yeah. So you just install this thing and just give virtual host in each as an environment variable. Yes, there is also key for environment variables which you can pass in here named environment, right? And you can give my or node env is equal to production. Okay, right? So what you can do is you just have to pass the environment variable, and you will be able to access your services on virtual host, right? So you have to add just this one image and Nginx proxy, and you can try it out. Okay, so that is I think pretty simple, and it's easy to try it out. I'll just comment it out. We can use okay. So that's it. I think yeah. So you learned how to create an image, how to create your whole config. Right, it is a very small config, but slowly you can go to documentation and you can learn how you can build as per your customization. You can really ask me anytime on Twitter or maybe Facebook or anywhere. I'll be happy to help. Right, and let's go to question and answer. So hello guys. There is question from Hitesh. Can we automate Docker image build process when we save any code change? No, you cannot automate the build process, right? Because this is build is basically something time taking process, right? So what happens in build is there are layers, right? So you run this command and other command and other command, right? So some kind of hot reloading is not possible, right? So usually what we do is as you mounted this volume over here, usually we mount a kind of subdirectory that's our application directory, right? So what we do is we just when we want to use some kind of hot reloading for our code, right? So I just mount, let's say, volumes, and then let's say my app, and inside that will be where www, right? Right. But this will only be there for development purpose, right? It won't be there for production, right? So what this will do is as soon as your where www directory will be used from your host system, right? So that will be mounted from host to the container inside the container, right? So this will help you to write code faster, right? Let's try and if you want to try, let's mount index.js. I think index.js won't help. Maybe yeah, let's try routes.json. Route.js. Okay. Docker Compose upd. But yeah, usually this thing is not used in the development, because Node is much faster, right? In the host system, you don't need to create a virtual environment for a Node, right? So this can be useful for large applications, let's say PHP or Laravel, or where we have tons of dependencies which are platform dependencies, right? So it's not easy to install one more even extension in PHP with a click, right? So in that case, I usually suggest to go with some kind of this thing. And so I think we mounted routes.json, and let's see if it is working. I'll just return JSON, simple JSON, paste, work. Okay. There is some issue. Okay, yeah, that might not work because node has already run. It's running, right? It's not even hot reloading inside. So this won't work. Yes, this will fail. It won't work. So we might need to use something like node mon in here, and then it might work. Yes, this will directly won't work. Even node is basically caching our full file system, right? So this won't work. Right. So ideally, this can be used for PHP or scripting languages in which we are. I mean, when you run PHP artisan server, so in case for Laravel, right? So it won't be cached, like it won't cache the full directories or full all the files, right? So in that case, you can save the file and you can continue to preview them easily, right? And what this gives is flexibility mainly. So and now once I push this to GitHub, any one of you can just go and Docker Compose build, try it out right on your own. So let's maybe push this thing to GitHub, one of the repo, and you guys can try it out. I think let me go and fork that project. That will be more useful. And any other questions, guys? Okay, perfect. And I've committed this thing and it's been pushed. So I'll just push this to, I think Mayur can share the URL with you guys. Oh, there are so many GitHubs open. I'll go and change. Okay, this is good. It's not this one, obviously. I shared it, right, with you guys. Okay, perfect. You do have that. Okay, so that's it. I think. Do you guys have any other questions? I'll be happy to ask. Sorry, answer. Mayur, are you there?
Hello, Tarun.
Hello.
Sunita here from WTM Surat.
Hey, hi.
Hi. So, guys, if you have any question, you can ask to Mayur directly right now. I think there is no question will gonna people ask.
Nitesh is there. Thank you for clarification. Welcome. Okay, so I think you guys have seen how can you create a sample Docker compose file, and you can boot up your infrastructure and you can use the same file for your production, your development, and anywhere, right? So uh, yeah, so that's it from my end.
Mhm. Thank you so much, Tarun.
Thank you.
Tarun gave us a powerful talk on Docker, how to set up environment and all. Thank you so much. Hope all the people are doing great in quarantine time and utilizing their uh, time learning new things and all. So have a good time with us, Tarun and all other guys. Thank you so much. And we
Thank
have
you.
another live streaming and next week. So people join us. We will put this URL on the Twitter. And thank you so much, Tarun, and everybody. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.